Okay, go.
All right. Hi, my name is Raihan Halim. I'm the writer-director for La Luna, a Singapore-Malaysian film about a small village that's transformed by a brush shop.
Okay, tell me a bit how this co-production came to be, like the story behind the production, we'll say.
The story came about many years ago. I read a story about, I think, a lingerie shop in one of the Middle Eastern countries, and it was burnt down by a group of men. And I tried to look for the answer, why would this group of men burn down this lingerie shop? Couldn't find the answer, so I made a film to perhaps answer the question of why would a group of men do something like this.
And do you have an answer now?
I think people are afraid of change. I think that's what the film is about. I think the zeitgeist just literally hit two things at the same time, because I did question a lot about Islam in present day and how sometimes there is this fear for change, and La Luna, the storyline just came perfectly at the right time for me. And yeah, so maybe a group of people are just afraid of change, and that's why the brush shop burned down. I don't know, maybe.
And do you think that this fear of change is even more significant in small places, like the place where the story happens?
Absolutely. I think the smaller you are as a country or place, the harder it is to change. I think I think I've read about a minister saying that sometimes small countries are like little boats. The more you try to be more violent, the more the boat can capsize. So the smaller it is, the more dangerous it is to overturn. So change is very dangerous to some people, but I think change is the only constant in life. But that's how I see it. Yeah.
And is the presentation of like a man like controlling a whole village like realistic? You think it happens?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you're talking about Islam, generally is very male dominated. So I'm not challenging it. I'm just showing what it is, right? And that's the thing about the film. I think there were some complaints about how the film shows a man being domineering. But what people miss is that there are many other characters in the film about men who are changing, who are actually very supportive of change, men who balances out the thing. For example, the religious teacher in La Luna, he's about not preaching, but to actually teach, using new ways to connect with the people. And the character of Salihin, who plays a cop, he is really about change. In fact, actually, if you watch the film, his character arc is how I view myself, about being a moderate Muslim in a very progressive world, and how I need to have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, and it's about toggling that. And it will take a lot of time, but eventually we'll get there to find that perfect balance between the past and the future.
And I also felt that the movie shows that how violence is created under those circumstances. Is that your opinion about how violence is created?
At least in the film, the way we created is that it all boils down to trauma. I think for one of the villainous characters, the reason why he did what he did was because of trauma. And it feels to me, really, when we were young, we would get bullied in school, and then you realize that the big bully in school was actually bullied at home. Then you realize that whatever they got, they actually inflict upon others. And that's the thing. And I do not have a clear answer to this, but if you watch the film and you see who eventually burned down the shop, it's really about someone who just wouldn't want to change. It's not necessarily trauma. Maybe it's just deep-seated hatred for people, for change, or grasp for power, I guess. Yeah.
And why did you decide to make sex an important factor? Because I think it's a bit difficult in Malaysia to have sex things in the movie. Yeah.
I think that's why we made a film about it. I think for many of us, we've been working on television a lot, and we are very restricted by a lot of things that we can talk about. And sex is something that we rarely talk about in our culture, in our religion. Rarely talk about it. But I'm not interested in showing sex, but in showing intimacy. I think that's the big difference. To me, it is more fun to show the couple doing it without showing it. I think there's a difference between dirty and cheeky, and we wanted to go cheeky all the way because we felt that let the audience fill up the gap. And I thought that the idea of intimacy in this story actually is actually inspired by, I think, an old Greek mythology. I think I'm not a Greek story. Lysistrata. Yes, and I love the idea about a group of women controlling the men with the nether regions, the fact that you cut off sex from them and they start to change. I love that, and I just thought that what can make men change their mind or how to control them, and is to control their. And I thought, hey, a bra shop, it just fits so nicely. And I thought, hey, it's a bit about woman empowerment, but they're using what they have to control their men. And I thought that's just funny. Yeah.
And what about comedy? Why you decided to have that aspect? Because the movie could easily be a drama,
Yes, absolutely. I think I do not know how to make this not a comedy. I think to make it cheeky, to make it funny is the best and most accessible way. And hopefully, it translates well. And I think that the idea that it's a comedy and then it got heavier and heavier and then it lifts up again, it's more fun than just doing it as a straight drama, because I think it can be a little too preachy. And I think by hiding it in this coat of like souffle, of like candy, which is funny and all, it brings us easier to the message, as opposed to right from the start doing it as a big heavy drama.
Okay. Let's say if the movie continued, what would happen, let's say, to the religious leader, let's say, the protagonist? Will the couple become a couple, or?
I think that if it continued, once the film ended, I think the place would change for the better. And it shows that sometimes leaders have to listen to the people. I don't think, what's the word? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think there has to be people putting leaders on the spot to question. And now with the new leader in La Luna, the film, the new leader is open to listening. And we try to do it as visually as possible, because at the start we just see all these middle-aged men. And at the end there are like younger people, there are women. And I think that's the start of change, in that you start listening to different people and getting different opinions. Even if the opinions may differ with you and you'll be very disagreeing towards it, at least it opens up conversation for something better. Yeah.
And tell me a bit about the casting. How did it work for the movie?
Casting-wise, I wrote the role for Hani, for Sharifah Amani. I wrote it for her, and it's very interesting. The first time we met her, she asked, why me? And I said, because I wanted a rebel. And it's interesting because when we met her, it was like five years ago. That was way before COVID. And ever since then, she got married, she mellowed out. And I saw this character and this actress grow. And she stopped being combative. She started being more open, and I thought that was very, very interesting. And again, I was very interested in working with Shahizi Sam because he's like a big superstar in Malaysia. He made all these blockbusters and all. But the question I have is that what is the other side to this man? And it's interesting because when he met us, he said he was afraid of doing comedy because he had done it very badly early on in his career. And I said, that's the reason why I want you to do this, because I think there's a chance that we can show a different side of you. And that's how it began. And for Wan Hanafi Su, when I wrote his character, I was watching Apprentice a lot, Bu Jun Feng's Apprentice, and it just came to me. The funny part is that Wan Hanafi Su is totally opposite of the character. He is a rebel through and through. So the fact that he's playing this leader who's like controlling people is quite fun to watch and see how he transformed. Yeah.
What about the policeman?
For a policeman, for Sam, we casted him because I know that he acted in Police Evo before he's playing a cop as an action hero. Just to see that different side of him, to let him play comedy and as a romantic lead, that's the fun part. And it worked very well because I thought he did a great job in portraying that character, who's an avatar for myself.
And Namron, who's a friend of mine,
actually. Oh my God, Namron
he's so funny.
Crazy. This is the best part, and I keep telling people this story. For Namron's character, for the couple, we tried to cast comedians at first, and we realized the mistake of, if we had made it, the comedians would play it as comedy. But Namron and Farah Ahmad, they didn't approach it from a comedic standpoint at all. He came in playing a dramatic character in a funny situation. That's it. So even when I'm directing him, I say, I think you need to be a bit bigger. Then he just gave just enough. So he never approached it as a comedy at all. And that's the fun part, seeing actors performing this. And he was extremely professional. He was like, are you sure I can do this? Can I do that? So it's very interesting to see how actors respond to a comedy script, because they never approach it as a comedy, but approach it as every single work they have done, which is a dramatic piece of work. It's just that you have to just moderate it and put them in a situation that is funny. So that's Namron, amazing actor. Yeah.
And can you tell me a bit about the cinematography, what you wanted to do in the visual aspect of the film?
Great. That's great. I have always wanted to work in a to film a village in Malaysia. It's just very strange for me because it's an alien world for me. But for my DP, Sophia and myself, we had an idea of what a palette should be like, but it changed drastically once we went to Kuala Kangsar where we filmed, because I wanted green rice fields, but when we go there it's out of season. But he said embrace this look, embrace the brown. And again, when we went there, the AD, the assistant director, said that this is rainy season. And I'm like, no, I need sunlight, I need sun, I need it to be looking like Amelie, you know. And they say, well, there are two ways about this: you stop shooting or you shoot through the weather. And we say, you know what, let's embrace it. And so not even halfway, I think on our first day of shoot, we started embracing the rain. We used the rain, and it looked even better because I think we didn't shy away from it. We just embraced rain as part of the environment, and I think we got the right look that we want at the end of the day.
And regarding editing, let's say what we want to do with the pace of the film.
Yeah, editing was tough. We edited for around 6 months. I think the first cut, and many directors might tell you that the first cut was the worst cut ever. We were in depression for like, I'm not even kidding when I say that for a month after the first cut, I was away writing other films because I'm like, I couldn't even touch the film because it was so depressing, it was so bad, right? And then we said, you know what, let's look at it with fresh eyes. And we start whittling it down and we start to cut things off immediately. You know, some big subplots are taken out, which totally is irrelevant to the story. But when we were writing it, we thought this is the most important scene, we have to remove it. And it started to get slimmer. And what's interesting is that we didn't edit it as a comedy, we really edited it as a drama. But the comedic elements just came in cleanly. And I think it's also a testament of how great the actors are. I think we were very spoiled for choice for a lot of the moments. And it was fantastic because I worked with this editor called Aida. This is her first feature film. And it was just me and her and my producers. But it's great to have a female perspective of the film. And I learned the hard way when I'm making this film was that some of the jokes are so male-driven that she's like, I think you guys might find this funny, but we women don't find this funny at all. And I'm like, really? But it's funny. They say, well, it's not funny to us, you know. And you started to see that balance, and you realize that sometimes, in order, you have to listen to people, right? And it is impossible for me as a Malay man, try to see it from their point of view, but you have to listen to them. And then once we cut it off and everything, and we realize, oh, it's so much funnier. Because again, perspective is very important, and I thank Aida for that.
What would you say was the most difficult scene to shoot?
The fire scene was difficult in a very strange way. The fastest shoot elsewhere also. When we talked to our producer, our assistant producer Adrian, he said that this scene is 3 days to be shot. I'm like, no, I don't have 3 days. I only have 1 day. In fact, I only have one round. We have to film it in one round with 2 cameras. So once the fire begins, everybody act until the fire goes off. So it was 2 cameras, and we were promised 3 hours of fire. What happened was, once the fire goes off, the house burned down in 15 minutes. So we were promised 3 hours, we got 15 minutes. And the fireman came and said the reason why it burned so fast is because the paint was fresh. So the chemical reaction made it. And so in that 15 minutes, we literally blasted through. We told the actors, and that's the best part of working with actors, they never stopped acting until we say cut. So we say, do not stop acting because the camera might just point to you at any moment. So they just went on for 15 minutes. And that was the craziest and toughest one, but yet the most fun because the adrenaline was off the charts that day, off the charts. Yeah.
Okay. And what is your opinion of the Malaysian movie industry at the moment? How would you describe? I think this is one of the best years in the history of Malaysia. So many good movies.
Yes, so it's a great period for Malaysian films. I mean, the best part is none of our films are the same. You know, if you're talking about La Luna and Tiger Stripes, you know, it's totally different. Tiger Stripes with Pendatang or Tiger Stripes with Rain Town, it's totally different. And that's why we need the variety. We cannot keep making the same exact film all the time. And somehow or another, we made films that are accessible to the audience, not necessarily to Malaysian audience, but to the world as well. So it has a great mix. I think we have some of the biggest blockbusters in Malaysia. We have the most indie films coming out of Malaysia as well. So it's fantastic, you know. So yeah, I mean, couldn't complain. I could have made La Luna like probably 3-4 years ago, but I could make it today. Yeah.
Will the audience have returned to the cinemas, you say?
It is a very tough period for cinema in general, but in Malaysia especially, I think even like Marvel movies, like the Marvels didn't do very well. It suffered a lot in these recent months, especially with what's going on around the world. But we are looking to have much better weather coming up next because people are going back to cinemas again. So hopefully the choices and the films that we make bring the audiences back to the cinemas. Yeah.
And the last question, I guess, future projects, what are you working on next?
I'm working on another film. I think we keep joking about this. We keep saying that my first film is about a hijabi girl who wants to be a wrestler. The second film is about a hijabi girl who's controlled by the village. We are trying to make the third part of the hijabi girl trilogy, we call it. But it will be set in a more urban environment, and again, it will also show the two different worlds. And what that world is very music driven. That's the best I can describe. And hopefully here in Rotterdam, I'll get more inspired to write this story. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.